There was a vaccine or test requirement at the Patriot Awards, which is very similar to the policy at Fox News. Do you have an issue with Fox News having a policy like that, which is effectively the same as Biden's vaccine mandate for big businesses?
You're not mandated to get the vaccine because you can get a test. I'm not in charge of it. I don't make the calls, but either you have the option to get a test, so it's not actually a complete vaccine mandate, and that's fine. I mean, it's not my call. So I'm grateful for the people that provide us this opportunity, and the show went off without a hitch.
Right, but it's just that Joe Biden's vaccine mandate for big businesses has been the subject of criticism, and that's even less stringent than the one at Fox News. Right, it requires weekly testing as opposed to daily testing. So I'm curious as to why you have an issue with the Joe Biden vaccine mandate, but no problem with the one at Fox News.
What do you want me to say? I mean, ultimately, companies have prerogatives. What the government shouldn't be doing is telling them what to do. The government shouldn't be telling them what to do. Every company has its own policies, and I'm beyond grateful for the opportunity to work at the Fox News channel. And it does things that no other organization does, including your organization, Mediaite, which is part of the trash heap of left-wing media that does the same thing everyone else does. That's why we're number one. I mean, I can't even imagine what the clicks are on your site. Is it like 15 people a day, like only journalists in New York
16.
City that click on 16? Good. They're the only people that read Mediaite. The actual people read the Fox News channel. So you guys want to nitpick and do your thing, it's cool, but I could not be more grateful for the Fox News channel.
Well, guess that answers the question as to why Fox hosts don't like to broach the topic of their own network's vaccine mandate, considering as soon as they're pressed on it, they completely melt down. This is Aidan McLaughlin, the editor-in-chief of Mediaite, speaking to Fox host Pete Hegseth about his own network's vaccine rules, which are actually more strict than the national rules. And yet, while the network has lost its mind over the federal government's vaccine mandate, they've been mysteriously quiet when it comes to the even more strict rules at their own place of employment. I'm not saying they're hypocrites, but yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. And of course, when confronted on this issue, all Hegseth can manage to do is attack Mediaite, rather than acknowledge the blatant hypocrisy between their wailing about how bad it is for Biden to mandate the rules that Fox itself mandates. He does what every Republican who feels attacked does and starts hitting back at everyone else. Because if there's one thing you should always remember, it's that Republicans are never to blame. In reality, Fox implemented their rules, which amount to either getting vaccinated or submitting to daily testing, because those rules are effective at keeping people safe. That is the reason, and there's no other reason. Clearly, Fox understands and accepts that very basic logic behind requiring either vaccinations or testing. And so if they acknowledge its importance among their own employees, that would beg the question as to why they push back so hard against similar rules for other people. Why wouldn't they want everyone to be as safe as Fox has deemed they want their employees to be? Why is Fox okay with other people dying, and yet they'll take steps to ensure that their own employees don't die? It's this kind of dichotomy that puts Fox's priorities on full display, and that is that their positions aren't based on logic. If they were, Fox would have no problem with everyone being subjected to the same rules that they themselves voluntarily subject themselves to. Their positions are based on politics, on optics, on partisanship. Fox and Republicans have already planted their flags as the anti-science, anti-vax, anti-safety measures party when it comes to COVID. And so rather than taking any common sense steps to actually make this virus go away, they just blindly rail against these safety measures because they only know how to exist in opposition. Biden could tout a cure for cancer, and Fox would air a 6-part segment claiming that cancer has rights too. So Pete Hegseth and his colleagues will continue to push back against rules that they have no problem with at their own company because that's just what they're supposed to do. And the only priority they have is pandering to an audience that they themselves have trained to despise those rules that they will happily abide by. And so they benefit from a system put in place to protect them while simultaneously teaching their own viewers to push back against those systems in their own lives. Because as far as Fox is concerned, it's safety for me, but not for thee. To see more videos like this, click the subscribe button right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work, subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. I cover the most important stories each week, and my guest is always one of the top political figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris, Jen Psaki, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Nancy Pelosi, Katie Porter, Cory Booker, and so many more. The podcast link is also right here on this screen, so give it a listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.